How's everybody doing? This is like the lull of the day at 3:30 p.m. It's tough. So if you need to do one of these or these, then just feel free. I did a little one. That was a great introduction. I just want to talk a little bit about the stuff that we're doing at Breather today. All the talks have been amazing, and they're really good lead-ins to the stuff I'm going to be talking about. So specifically, I want to talk about when you are delivering a service experience. So we've talked a lot about service experiences. How do you maintain a level of quality when you're growing really fast? And that's something we're doing now. So just to talk a little bit about what Breather does, if you're not familiar with us, we offer beautiful functional workspaces that are available throughout, distributed throughout the city. So we have close to 20 locations in Toronto now, but we're also in New York, San Francisco, Boston, London, UK, Montreal. We're based out of Montreal. So what you're seeing here is a pretty typical Breather formula. We'll have beautifully designed by our in-house team of designers, a very functional workspace, and sort of a breakout lounge area where if you're doing an offsite or something like that, a place to relax. So these are a couple of our spaces in Toronto. This is our flagship location at Adelaide and Spadina. So it's a great location for doing a big offsite. We also worked with Gus Modern for this space, so they've provided all of the furniture for us. But we don't just simply provide the spaces. A big part of our service offering is also the way that you get into our spaces. So our spaces can be reserved on demand the day of or up to 60 days in advance. And using the app or using the website, you get a unique PIN code that allows you to access your space. So we don't need to have a receptionist. You just go, you unlock the door, and then you can hold your meeting or you can hold your offsite or what have you. So because the spaces are fairly neutral and beautifully designed and distributed throughout the cities, they get used for all kinds of different things. These are a couple of our main use cases: photography, recording, classes, offsites. We're very popular with businesses that want to reduce their real estate spend. They aren't able to have a gigantic meeting space just on demand for whenever they need it, so using us becomes a much more logical solution for them. So at this point, we're at about just over 300 spaces and about 150 employees. But when I started two and a half years ago, we were at 30 employees. So there's been a lot of growth in a very short period, and we're growing a lot more in 2017. So this is our big, ambitious mission. We really want to transform the way you work. I think we've talked a lot today about the way you work is changing. There's been mentions of the gig economy and that this 9 to 5 is kind of going away. So our spaces are part of that transformation. But what we are offering is not just part of the spaces. They have to be easy to get into. They have to be easy for your guests to get into, because it's very rare that there's just one person coming. Usually you're hosting a big group. They need to be exceptionally reliable. So we have high-speed Wi-Fi in all of the spaces. If that's down, then the spaces really cease to become functional. You need to be able to connect to those TVs really easily. If there's a problem, then you need to be able to call our customer care line and get the level of service that you need. So there's many different touch points and factors that need to come together to kind of deliver the level of service that we want to deliver on. So I just want to roll it back a little bit and talk about where we kind of started. So at the point we're at now, we are at over 100 employees and 300 spaces. But when we started, it was a very small team. And I'll just talk through a little bit of this. So in the upper left-hand corner, that's our Android developer sitting on the couch with our marketing designer, sitting on the couch with our location designer. So you have all these people that in a large organization never talk to each other, At the beginning, everybody's in the same room, everybody's doing everything. That's our CEO and our former VP of product. They just finished setting up our very first space. That down there is the apartment of our GM in New York City. We had no storage space, so he used his own apartment as his storage space. That's our chief creative officer painting some of the walls in our old office. So you have, at the very beginning, you have everybody doing everything, and that can contribute to the success of a company because you just have a much better exposure onto your customers, the problems, and what it is you're solving for. So when we first started, really small team, everybody wore many hats, really close connection to customers, no departments, no silos, and no process, which can be kind of chaotic, but sometimes it's really good because it allows you to adapt quickly. So fast forward to 2017, where we're at now. We've gone through many changes to our product, many changes to our service offering, and even to our audience, like better understanding what are the segments of our audience that we want to target more. It gets way harder to figure out what you should be working on. We're constantly bringing on new people, so having to continuously explain who we are, what we do, and what it is we're trying to achieve becomes really mission critical when you want people to hit the ground running. And we're just dispersed geographically, so that comes with its own challenges. So this is kind of the thing that we're trying to figure out, which is like, how can we ensure that we're seeing the forest while we're just really busy on the ground planting trees? So the things that I want to talk about are sort of tactics that we've used at 3 different levels. So one is at the individual level. What were our individual employees doing to give them better exposure to some of these challenges? What are some of the teams doing? And then what are we doing as an organization? So the first thing, just talking about individuals, if I had to sort of sum it up in a nutshell, it would be fostering a culture of empathy with customers and teammates. So first thing is just Slack. Are there people in the audience that have used Slack before? Yeah, wow, yeah, like everybody. So we're huge Slack users at Breather, and one of the things we've done right from the beginning is really just leverage that tool to give us real-time feedback on what's happening with our product and bring a closer connection to our customers. So we have a number of bots that are just giving us continual feedback loops on what's happening. We've got NPS ratings that are telling us how people are rating the service. That's Net Promoter Score. We also have an ability to rate, sort of like an Uber, you rate your ride every time you take a ride. We have a similar system, so that comes right into Slack, and we can respond right away if there's an operational problem, something with temperature, for instance, if the temperature's out in the heat, or it's too hot or too cold, or there's construction happening across the street and we didn't know about it, we can respond quickly. Social media, so people call us out on Twitter if they're having problems, and we can respond quickly. And then sometimes we'll spin up like a new channel in Slack if we're rolling out a package, just to see in real time how it's being used. So this one was when we started selling packages for full days, half days. We could see who was booking, what organization they were with, if they were with an organization, what platform they were booking on. So was it on iOS, Android, or web? And that just helps us better understand how things are being used. The next thing that I want to talk about is customer care. So a big initiative that we've done at HQ is just to do all hands customer care shifts for everyone. So that includes the executive team. So that meant everybody in the whole company needed to be trained in the same way that our customer care team is trained. We appointed somebody, Vitut, to sort of oversee this change, and he acts as like an ambassador between customer care and product. So having somebody in that role has been really crucial for us to make sure that we're not missing things. And it just, there's no substitute for just connection with seeing how people use the service. So, yeah, I included this photo because this was a photo of our iOS developer when he thought that he had confused two conversations between two different customers. So seeing how people use the service is just completely invaluable. This is actually an initiative in progress. So part of what makes Breather run is that we have lock technology on all of our spaces. So you get a unique PIN code that allows you to access the door. We've started installing the same lock technology in all of our internal meeting rooms so that all employees are basically forced to use our own app to unlock the spaces. So that means we need to book them, no more just crashing into a meeting room and being, hey, did you book this space? No. Oh, really? What's your meeting about? Whose is more important, mine or yours? Now it will all go through the app. So this is sort of this notion of dog fooding, eating your own dog food, using your own product as much as possible. Even if we get lazy and we don't use our own product, then we're going to be forced to. And then lastly, it's really important to have a culture of empathy with your customers, but also with other employees and other people that you don't normally talk to in the organization. So we have a bot, the Coffee Talk bot, that once a week will just automatically choose two employees, send out a message to them and say, hey, you guys are scheduled to have a coffee talk this week. When's a good time? And it just leads to really simple, casual conversations between employees that wouldn't otherwise talk. And it gives you exposure onto the types of organizational challenges that other departments are dealing with that you just might have no exposure to. So this was me talking to the SF operations coordinator, and getting a better understanding of the stuff that they're dealing with helps me understand why they're prioritizing the things they are. So, secondly, I want to just talk about what we're doing at the team level. So this is a project that we did last quarter called the Library in New York City. This morning, Bob talked a lot about the innovator's dilemma, which is fantastic and a great sort of lead into this project. We wanted to explore the idea of a low-priced shared co-working option. We know that this is something that a segment of our customers are asking for. And so we wanted to just do a simple project to explore what opportunities existed in that space, what it might look like if we were to execute on it, and yeah, if Breather was going to do co-working, what might it look like? So this was really like a multidisciplinary effort between many different departments. So it's sort of the idea of a startup in a startup. So user experience, digital marketing, interior design for designing the spaces, and research as well, and of course operations people on the ground. We also had, because this was, we called this the library, we had a librarian who was managing the space, accepting people in and out, because this was not a space that had a lock on it like some of our other spaces. It was a space that had sort of a concierge in it. But the librarian had double duty of not only welcoming people in, but also talking to them, finding out who they were, what brought them to the space, how they might have found out about it, and just basically doing on-the-ground research in disguise. So, so this was a really interesting project, but having the ability to do these types of projects as you grow is really, really important. It means that you sort of don't run into that innovator's dilemma where you're unable to see other opportunities because you're so married to your current business model. This was another example of teams coming together to fundamentally change a way that we present the service. This is actually the same space in Montreal photographed in two different ways. On the left is the previous way we used to photograph our spaces. And we started getting a lot of feedback about the lack of accuracy on how spaces were presented. So photographers in particular who rented our spaces were expecting that, and then they got that, and they were very frustrated because it was much darker than they expected. So finding a middle ground where we could accurately represent the spaces, manage people's expectations before they got in there, meant that it was a collaborative effort between marketing, between customer care, and between user experience. And then lastly, just in terms of the organization, how are we kind of adapting to meet some of these challenges head on as we grow? And I would say this is the area where it's still a work in progress. Everything's still a work in progress, but this is like, it gets more and more challenging as we go along. So we're continually kind of tweaking our org chart to figure out what is the best way that we can attack some of these issues while we're growing. So last year, we started bringing more and more things under the umbrella of product, whereas previously, as a company, we'd made the mistake of considering our product as being the website, the app, all of this typical kind of like digital trappings, but broadening the product to be closer to its service definition, where it encompasses many, many more things. Just allows us to be able to loop in real estate, loop in design, loop in marketing to all of those types of conversations. More recently, we've actually developed a smaller product team that's just dedicated to real estate, and that's actually based in New York. So as we grow, we're sort of looking at ways that maybe it doesn't make the most sense to have everybody working on product in Montreal, isolated from other teams. It might make more sense to have more regionally focused teams that are able to connect, be better connected with what the realities are and the challenges of the real estate team. And lastly, I would say probably the most important thing, and that's something that's been talked about a lot today, is just the importance of research in making sure that we really know what's happening. So I kind of refer to insights and research as like the 10,000 square foot lifeguard, making sure that there aren't any big gaps in in our service offering. One of the other big changes that we did in 2016 was just recognizing the importance of certain roles. And so for us, that meant we previously had operations associates who were part-time contractors, not considered employees of Breather. That really prevented us from being able to train our operations associates properly, from being able to offer uniforms, from being able to sort of deliver on the type of service that we want. So in 2016, we made the change to not work with independent contractors anymore and have those people become employees of Breather. And then lastly, just sort of this idea of knowing your North Star when you're working on this project. And as the company grows, that becomes really important. In an environment where there's so much changing quickly, you can have your audience changing or your product changing. If you have an idea of the sort of level of service that you're striving for, then that navigating those changes gets easier and easier. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Christy. Are there any questions from the audience for Christine about her work at Breather?
Awesome. Hey, Christine. Really, actually, maybe a tangent, but I really like how you guys eat your dog food example. And having worked in many different sort of corporate offices all over the place, I could definitely test the fact, and I think anyone else here will test this fact, that booking meeting rooms and that problem that you just outlined, where people show up and there's a confusion, and there was actually in one of my old roles, we would often jokingly play a bluffing game where you would lie about booking the room just to see if the other person would back down first. But have you guys ever considered like Like that's a service offering, like to, I don't know, real estate developer or to any corporation to say, hey, like that's like a big waste of time and resources. Outlook is so hard to book meeting rooms. It's hard to know what's available, to find the right room. Have you guys ever considered that as like a?
Definitely, yeah. We've talked a lot about the possibility of like a white label version of our reservation system. We've prototyped some other tools where you can book a breather through Google Calendar. So kind of adapting the tools that we're using. It's one possible route.
It's okay, you don't have to.
Are there any other questions?
Hey,
Hey.
do you guys actually own all the spaces, or are they rented out from others?
The majority of our spaces are leased by us. We have a portion of spaces on the platform that are not, that are revenue share spaces. As we grow, that's been something that that has changed a little bit over the couple of years, figuring out what are the best ways where we can bring on revenue share partners and still deliver on the kind of level of reliability and service that we want to. So that's a big challenge for 2017. But yeah, it's about, actually I'm not going to give a percentage because I don't know what it is, but there's a chunk that are not leased by us.